This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Monday Mashup, Detroit Sports Podcast Network, brought to you by The Athletic. The Athletic is premium sports coverage for all sports fans who want an experience that doesn't have ads, that has great writing, that has great insight, that has great analysis. And again, it doesn't have ads. It's like reading the newspaper, except on your phone or on your computer, and it's amazing. It's subscription-based, of course, but we at Detroit Sports Podcast are here to help. If you want to save 30% on a subscription to The Athletic, the new sports page, the best in premium sports content, go to theathletic.com/DSP. That's www.theathletic.com/DSP. And we are going to give you 30% off your subscription to The Athletic. Again, the best in premium sports content with the best analysis and the best writers and no ads. 30% off. Get this deal while you can. It's at theathletic.com/DSP. One more time, theathletic.com/DSP. Again, this is the Monday Mashup on Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am your host, as always, Shane Orling. Joining me, my co-host, Tanner Seltzer. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just been hanging out, getting down to the grind like everybody else, Monday through Friday. You know how it goes, people.
How was the weekend down in Florida? For those who don't know, Tanner is a Jacksonville resident. He grew up in Metro Detroit, but he took his talents to, I don't know, what's the beach in Jacksonville?
Jacksonville Beach, yeah. Took it to Jacksonville Beach.
Yeah.
It was nice, though. It was a cool 98 degrees average down here this week. So yeah, it was, nice and temp, just nice and decent temperature out there.
Yeah, good. It was Dream Cruise weekend up here. How glad are you that you were not a part of that?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at a 15. I wasn't there. I'm glad I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you. Well, I did something even maybe worse, depending on the outlook. But I did dip out of Dream Cruise weekend, which I'm glad about. Dude, Dream Cruise weekend, it's really special for those who love cars. And I understand, like, people come out from all over the country that are, like, real car nerds. And they're like, yeah, let's go post up on Woodward and look at all the classic cars. But, like, 90% of it is just shitty, drabby-looking, like, rusted-out minivans with some dirty guy driving in the seat, and he's just pissed off that he's sitting in traffic for hours. It takes 45 minutes to go 1 mile. God forbid you want to go eat at any of the restaurants on Woodward. Like, it's, if you live around here, you have to, like, bill your time so that you are not on Woodward during the Dream Cruise, or you're screwed.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I remember, when I did live there, it was an absolute nightmare. If you just had to, like, I remember specifically one year I had to go to a store that was on Woodward just to grab, like, 2 things. And it took me over an hour just to go there and go home when my house was, not that far from Woodward at the time. So I'm not one for the Woodward Dream Cruise. I understand the appeal, like you said, but outside of just looking at cars, and appreciating them, what else is there to do, really?
And I like cars. I'm a car guy. And I know that there are, like, other things that you can do because you can walk around and go to the stands. But, like, if you're not in I'm lucky enough that I live in walking distance, so I could go out of my house and go down the street and walk to 13 Mile and walk a mile up the road, and I'm at the Dream Cruise. But if you don't live in walking distance, one, you have to drive there, which basically eliminates me if it's me, because I don't want to be anywhere near that traffic jam. 2, you have to park your car. And then 3, and that's a pain in the ass. And then 3, you got to walk around and do other stuff. And even if you are in walking distance and you do walk to the Dream Cruise, the other problem is if you want to do the things that aren't sit in a lawn chair like a nerd and watch these cars go by while you sip something non-alcoholic because you're in public and on Woodward. And I mean, unless you're breaking the law, but like, what? You want to walk up and down the street and go to all these stands and buy stuff and then walk around and carry it home and like have to carry it with you all day? No, like nobody wants to do that. I just think maybe I'm a cynic, but as an event, like when I was a kid, it was really cool because my grandpa was into it. We would go out and we would just kind of sit and look at all the old cars, and it was more like old cars. And now, like, I guess it's cool because you see somebody in like a Lamborghini or a Maserati or some sweet sports car, and you're like, that's dope, or it's some souped up car that is actually pretty cool, and those are sweet. But again, like, every time it's just some guy in a rusty old Astro van that's pissed off that he's sitting in traffic, and it's not the dream cruise to me. That's a nightmare cruise.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, when you're younger, it's a lot cooler just because, like, I remember specifically in my young teenage years, like, just walking up and down Woodward with friends, just chit-chatting, oh, look at that car, oh, that one's sweet, look at that one, or, you know what I mean? And I'm not much of a car guy, but, it got some appeal out of me, but as you get older and you start driving yourself, it definitely loses its appeal for me anyway, and especially since I'm not a car guy. And if I was a car guy, I'd probably appreciate it more. But it's just not my crowd, not my area, and not my thing.
Yeah, and like I said, I am a car guy, but there's just so much other stuff that nobody wants to do that goes along with it. Now, here's what I did to get away, to dodge the dream cruise, because I didn't want to be in town for it. My fiance is in the Bahamas with family. They did a girls' trip. She had a much better getaway than I did because she's in the freaking Bahamas, and she's having a blast. She dodged the dream cruise because lucky. And then so I did a thing where I got some friends together. We rented a house through Airbnb, and we went and hung out at a house that we rented in Traverse City for the weekend, which was awesome and very, very fun. But it reminded me that everybody in Michigan just pumps going up north all summer straight through the roof. Like, this is the best thing you can do. Oh, you haven't been up to Traverse City yet this summer? Well, you gotta go. You gotta go check out the wineries, and you gotta... Okay, yeah. Here's the issue with going up north. Once you're there, it's beautiful. Assuming the weather holds, it's beautiful. There's a ton of stuff to do, whether you want to go to the bars or the wineries or you want to go check out the Lighthouse Museum. There's a ton of stuff to do up there, but that's once you get there. And holy hell, that 4.5-hour drive, that 5-hour drive is not fun either way. The things that people will do just to go up north is insane to me.
Yeah, and I've never been to Traverse City. I've been to a bunch of other places. Just Traverse City's not one that I've been to, but whenever you go out of town in Michigan, especially like those long drives up north, like I remember just being there as a kid and just thinking, oh my God, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And then the drive back is also always worse just because you want to get home, and usually it's on a Sunday. Which you came back on, and like you're thinking about the upcoming week, and you're just stuck in a car for 5 hours while you're trying to plan out your week and what you need to do when you get home. So I mean, that's with any traveling though, so I understand the frustration that comes with it, but at the same time, you want to go up north and enjoy the little things and stuff like that. And maybe that's where people like to hype it up. Maybe they just want to get away from the city life and go to places like Traverse City or just go camping somewhere and stuff like that. So I definitely understand the appeal behind it.
Yeah, and I get the appeal too, because it's fun. But the thing that's crazy to me is this: it's not the guys like me that go once a summer and make a weekend out of it. Even then, the drive sucks. The drive today, I had to get home, I had to record this, I have to get groceries for the week, I have things I have to get ready for work for the week. And I was driving today. I drove about 5.5, almost 6 hours. And by the time I got home, dude, I was gassed. One, all I wanted to do was just sit on the couch and put a movie on and just like zone out, like just check out for the night. And I have these things to do. So
it sucks being an adult, doesn't it?
Yeah, that aspect of it sucks. But the real nut jobs are the ones that buy a cottage or a summer home in Traverse City, and they have like a mortgage on it, or they are in Oscoda or wherever you want to go up north, like Tawas. You buy a summer home or a cottage or whatever there. Dude, these nut jobs will go up like 14, 15, 16 times a summer just because they're paying for it and they want to use it. I'm like, you're insane. What are you going to go up north that often for?
I mean, I've known a couple people that have done that. Like they own summer houses or whatever up north, and I don't know. I just maybe they have more because they can afford a second house. Maybe they have other, like toys and stuff like that. Maybe they have four-wheelers they can go out on. Just do stuff like that all weekend or whatever. So maybe we're missing some of the key pieces of this equation here, Shea.
I don't know, dude. I think they're nuts. I think you want to be smart about the situation. You find a friend that has the lake house. You find a buddy. Like, go to work, and the guy that's like, yeah, I'm going up north again to get on the boat and hang out with the kids, and we're going to go grill, and, oh, where at? Traverse City. Oh, you mean 4.5 hours away? Nah, dog, I'm good. I'm going to stay home.
Yeah.
But that's what you find the friend that has it, and you go use theirs once a summer. Because that's fine. I'll do the 8 hours there and back once a summer. I don't need to do it every weekend.
I'm going to throw this out to our listeners. I think Shea is actually just very cranky because he had to drive for 10 hours this weekend. I think that's what it's boiling down to here, folks.
That could be. I'm not in a great mood because that drive was just brutal. But that put aside, dude, I really think some of these people are crazy. Like, okay, so I used to date a girl, and her family had a house on a lake, and it was a smaller lake, but it was a house on a lake nonetheless. And I tell you what, it was in, like, Lapeer. Oh, my God. I could drive 45 minutes to this cottage that was on a lake with a boat, and it was like, I'm up north. And I only had to drive 45 minutes. That's 150 times better than driving 4.5 hours so that you can pitch a tent and sit around a fire for all of like one full day. If you leave after work on a Friday, you don't get there until 7:30, 8 at night, and then you got to set up. You're not ready to do stuff till about 10. So really you just get Saturday because then Sunday rolls around. And you're like, well, I got to get home. But then people start doing things. And then before you know it, it's 6 o'clock. And you have a 4.5 hour drive. Now you're not getting home until 11. And you're going to basically red-eye flight yourself to work in the morning.
Yeah, I get you, Shea. I understand. It's been a big day for you, guy. I understand. Just take it easy. Take a deep breath.
It's horrifically overrated, in my opinion. Just horrifically. You know what else is overrated?
What?
Preseason football.
Oh, yes. Boy, do we got a lot to talk about here.
So the Lions put out that just a gem of a performance against the New York Giants, and they did not look good at all, like on any front.
No, you're 100% right. And, I've been a big Lions optimist here this off season so far. And then, first preseason game is like, it's second string, third string, whatever. Second game, you kind of get a glimpse of what, the team's starting to come together. And I caught myself doubting my own opinions just based off their performance, which I don't want to do. And then, I took a day, I let it breathe for a day, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is game 2 of the preseason, and I'm analyzing this like this is week 10 of the regular season.
Yeah, that's the issue. Dude, I get on Twitter, and people are like, oh, well, this Lions defense is going to just be terrible this year, huh? They're letting the Giants score like this. I'm like, dude, can we all just slow down and remember that preseason doesn't mean anything?
Yeah, I mean, just ask the 2008 Detroit Lions who went 4-0 and looked great throughout the preseason, and then we all know what they did after that.
Yeah, a nice little 0-16 action.
Nice donut on their record.
The preseason means nothing, and that's me as a Patriots fan who watched them go against the Eagles and watched a defense that looked good and watched a Tom Brady that was pinpoint. And I'm watching, and I have to like pinch myself and go, dude, this is just preseason. There's no guarantee that any of what we are seeing carries over into the actual regular season, like at all.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is like, a lot of injuries happen in the preseason, and that changes the whole course of a team in their season overall in general. So I mean, I'm not wishing any injuries, but injuries do happen to other teams and possibly the Lions and stuff like that. So like a lot of things can change over a 2-week span before the first regular season game even starts. I will say though, you can gather some things from these preseason games though. You can look at the little things, are they trying to commit to the run game? Are they having any efficiency stopping the run on the defensive side of the ball? Stuff like that. And the answer to the first one is yes, they're trying to run the ball. Are they doing it effectively? No, not really. And two is, are they stopping the run? Not really, not at all. So I don't know. There's some things we can nitpick about these games, and those are, a couple of things. But like you said, it's preseason. They have stuff they got to work on. Of course, a new regime, new head coach, new defense, all that. But on the offensive side of the ball, you don't have a lot of excuses, in my opinion. Besides TJ Lang being out on the offensive line for this game, you got to show Taylor Decker looked awful. Shea, I don't know if you caught any of the game, but he looked like total garbage for that game. So I mean, that's my take on that.
I have a disclaimer on what I saw of the Lions game because I was at a bar in Traverse City. There were 17 million bachelorette parties going on around me. It seems like Traverse City might be the bachelorette capital of the world, not named Nashville. And I was very distracted, needless to say, very distracted by the environment in the bar. There were blow-up dolls being thrown around. There were guys getting Sharpied on their chests for God knows what reason. And I was like kind of half watching the Lions and half being a bar goer, which we know what that entails. So,
totally.
But I did watch the Lions, and some things I saw. No, there really wasn't anything good that I saw out of the game. I can't honestly say the times that I turned to look at the TV and watch the game, I was impressed. I was slightly impressed by the Giants and some of the things I saw them doing, but again, dude, I keep trying to come up with these hot takes and these strong opinions about a preseason football game, and I can't do it. I still look at the Lions and I go, look, you have a coach who has had a top 10 scoring defense every year except maybe one in New England. You have a quarterback that is consensus top 8, top 7, probably by many top 5. I think there's so much to be excited about. You have a rookie running back in Kerryon Johnson who has been one of the bright spots in this preseason. The one take that I can offer a little bit of strength, Amir Abdullah got to go.
Oh my God. I completely forgot about that until you said that. I think I blocked it out of my mind just because I literally, when he fumbled that ball, and granted, it was kind of like a mishandle by Stafford and Abdullah. I kind of share it 50-50, but I literally screamed. I literally said, cut him right now. As soon as he dropped that ball, I was so just agitated. I don't want to see him on this team anymore. And then he goes and drops a punt later in the game. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm just absolutely done with him.
No, I saw him drop the punt. And I remember I sent you a text. I said, this dude got to be cut tomorrow. This dude got to go. We have had the Amir Abdullah experiment for how many years now? We've watched it. We keep hearing he's going to be the feature guy. He's got a lot of upside. He either is shattered by week 2, or he's fumbling the football, or he can't stay. He can't stay in games. He can't hold on to the ball. What are we still doing with this guy? You have Kerryon Johnson. You have LeGarrette Blount. Work it out. Get rid of Abdullah. He's not doing anything. And the one thing that I am damn sure will translate from preseason to regular season is turnovers like that. Stupid plays where you can't hold on to the football. The fumble, you're right. It was a little bit of an iffy handoff from Stafford. The transfer was a little sketchy. But, dude, if you drop a punt, that is something that will carry over into the regular season. This guy has got to go. And I don't want to be on the podcast calling for people's jobs, but I think the Lions have done this experiment for long enough.
Yeah, and maybe Abdullah is our new scapegoat, whereas Ebron was the scapegoat last year and people were calling for his job. Maybe we're, early on the hype train of cutting Abdullah. I don't know, because he did look good in the first preseason game. I'll give him that, and he had a couple decent carries, I guess, in the second one. But I don't know if the benefit outweighs the negatives. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see a reason to keep him. Like you said, we have Kerryon Johnson, we have LeGarrette Blount, we have Theo Riddick. I don't know why you even need to keep him. In this case, I would probably just keep Zach Zenner as just the backup, a power running back or whoever. I don't even care who's the fourth running back. Just please, for the love of God, I do not want to see Amir Abdullah in a Lions jersey anymore.
I'm over it. Like, I got nothing else to say about it other than I'm over it. Yeah. There's no reason that he should take another snap in the backfield as a Detroit Lion. There's no reason.
Yeah. And one more quick thing, he was returning punts, and I've read something that Jamal Agnew is probably still going to be the first string punt return guy come week 1. But I will say, like, I caught a couple plays of Jamal Agnew on defense, and I liked what I saw from him. I don't know, he's apparently improved a lot on the defensive side of the ball over this season. Probably maybe he's competing for a nickel cornerback spot. But I would rather have him at punt return, and I hope that's true, that he is still the first string punt returner. And I kind of hope to see him get some more reps on the first string nickel cornerback spot, maybe for week 3 of the preseason when they go to Tampa Bay and play the Buccaneers.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think even in the first preseason game, there was the first series where Agnew was lined up at slot corner for the entire series. And I liked what I saw. He's got that kind of build, and that's the speed, the agility, that he could be like a perfect nickel corner in the system. And when you got guys like Nevin Lawson, Darius Slay to take a little bit of the pressure off you, I don't think there's any way that could be a negative situation, especially with what he's shown.
Yeah, and the Lions, they were getting gashed a little bit by Mr. Webb of the Giants. But I feel like a lot of these mistakes too, people are overhyping them. I think a lot of them are just little fundamental stuff that they can work on. Like when Webb ran for that touchdown, that was just some really poor tackling, and they can work on that. And there's just a lot of little things they can work on. And I feel like a guy like Matt Patricia is going to take his team back to square one. We're going to work on fundamentals this upcoming week, and I feel like week 3 they're going to put a lot better product out there on the field in Tampa.
All I know, man, is, and this is the last thing I have to say about the Lions preseason game, somewhere in this city, Carlos Monterez is playing a keyboard like a violin, because maybe Matt Patricia shouldn't have been running those guys in practice, huh? Maybe I was right. They look terrible. Carlos Monterez is somewhere pounding away on his laptop, putting some stupid piece together that's somehow going to get run in the paper. And that's a personal grudge.
Oh no, I'm right there with you. I'm not a Carlos Monterez fan. His articles are all clickbaity, and they're all just pure negativity the entire time. And I told you so's and this and that. And this guy thinks he's a genius, but I don't want to rant about somebody in the media.
Side note: ever since he wrote that article last season that said the Lions should trade Matthew Stafford for Tom Brady, I don't know. Carlos Monterez's mind is in a blender. Like, I don't know how that comes into play, but. Moving on to the rest of our NFL preview, we are looking at today the NFC South, I think, right?
Yes, the most coveted division in football as of last year. They had 3 teams with double-digit wins last year, Shea. I don't know about you, but to me, that's pretty impressive.
They got 3 teams that could go for double-digit wins this year, too.
Potentially, yeah, definitely. I don't know. I may differ from you on a couple teams here, but I think we should start here. We'll start with the Lions' 3rd preseason game. They're going to Tampa. Let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Why not? And of course, Jameis Winston's gone for 3 games, right?
Yeah.
For being a dumbass. Excuse me.
No, you can call it what it is, buddy. He's a sexual assaulter. He's done it quite a few times. And I don't think that we should shy away from that one.
Yeah, no, he's an idiot. He's getting in trouble all the time.
He shouldn't be in the NFL. But before we get me on a rant, we'll just move along.
Yeah. So last year they didn't have the best year. I don't know their exact record. I know it's 5-11 last year. Do we see any improvement this year, Shea?
Dude, honest to God, I think that the Bills and the Bucks are together in a race to see which team is going to be the worst in the NFL.
Okay, interesting. I'll break it down a little bit further. I think they added some nice pieces on defense. They added Vita V, and he was a beast at Washington. And you're going to pair him up with Gerald McCoy right next to him on the defensive line. I think that's going to be a nice little duo they got there. They tried to go straight defense, and of course, it's just going to come down to the offensive side of the ball. They still have Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, and some pieces like that. So they have potential. But I just don't see much improvement from this team. I think they're probably a 6-win, maybe a 5-win team again. But who knows? They could come out and turn some heads this year, Shea.
I mean, let me give it a little more, too, just because I think there is an outside shot that something along these lines happens where Jameis Winston is suspended for 3 games. And you have decent receivers phenomenal elite receiver in Mike Evans and decent receiver in Deshaun.
One-dimensional, lethal one-dimensional receiver, I would say.
So here's the thing. I think there is an outside shot that Ryan Fitzpatrick is the starter for the first 3 weeks and remains the starter for the season. I think there's an outside shot that the Bucs get enough out of Fitz to go, look, we got to cut our losses here and just call it what it is with Jameis and call it done. And maybe that is my personal vendetta and my personal feeling that a guy who's been an idiot repeat times should be allowed to play in the NFL. I don't think he should. I think like you've shown us, dude, who you are over the past 6 years of your life. Like, we know you're the guy that jumps on picnic tables and screams inappropriate things at Florida State. We know that you're the guy that gets wound up in a sexual assault investigation at Florida State that, by all accounts, was mishandled by police in the athletic department. And we now know that you're a guy that hangs out with convicted rapists who are out on bond, and not even just gang rapists, and who's out on bond, and you're going to the club with him in Arizona and then, by all accounts, assaulting an Uber driver. Like, we know who Jameis Winston is. If the Bucs have any balls, they'll split ways with him right now, because Ryan Fitzpatrick has to be at least as good as the guy who goes 3-13 last year. That's in my eyes. But
yeah,
I just think the Bucs, I can make football arguments for them being like a 5-6 win team, but the way that locker room has to be right now, there's no way.
I mean, Fitzpatrick came in last year. He started a few games from what I remember, and he did not look good. And I think I guess to kind of like add on to your argument about Jameis, being potentially cut, I think this might be like a final year for him. Like, I think once he comes back from that suspension, it's going to be, in the NFL, weird things happen when you start winning. People seem to forget certain events that happen. And I think what's going to happen is Jameis is going to come back, and if he starts winning, all will be forgotten and forgiven. And
yeah, you're right. Look at Ray Lewis and Ben Roethlisberger.
Exactly. And I think if he doesn't win, then I think they're going to be done with him the following year and the following offseason. But as of this year, I think they're going to give him a shot. And if he doesn't at least make a playoff appearance or, show some sort of, competence at the quarterback position, stop turning the ball over and stuff like that, then I think they're done with him this offseason.
Well, and he's made that He's made that claim, that he's sober now and he's like rehabbed as a person and he's a new guy, and the things that he did 2-3 years ago, exactly. The things he did 2-3 years ago are not who he is today. Bro, stop it. Like, you have made a consistent track record of doing this. I think it's shameful that I don't want to do this. We might have to move on very quick because I don't want to do this today. But it's another case of the NFL being absolutely disgusting and shameful in blackballing Colin Kaepernick, while Jameis Winston gets to literally do sexual assault over and over and still have a job in this league. I hate the Bucs this season, and it's almost got nothing to do with football.
All right, well, let's move on to another national championship winning quarterback in this division, Cam Newton, for the Carolina Panthers. Last year, they finished 11-5, came in second place in the division, and they just didn't finish strong. Cam looked terrible at the end of the season, like absolutely terrible, and they couldn't pull anything off in the playoffs when it came around. I don't know about you, Shea, but I don't. This is one of the teams I think finishes below 500 this year.
I could see it. You know me, I'm not a Cam Newton guy. I'm not a Cam Newton fan really at all. He has never impressed me as a passer. I think he's built like a tight end, but with the skill set of a running back. And he's just like tall enough that they'll put him in the quarterback position. But he's never impressed me as a pure passer, and he always has struggled with turnovers, and he's always struggled with accuracy. But one thing that this team has that could end up being a difference maker on both sides of the football, one is you have an elite signal caller and middle linebacker in Luke Kuechly, and two, Christian McCaffrey is a playmaker.
That's very true. McCaffrey showed a lot of promise last year, and I think he's going to get even more touches this year, especially running the ball, because they used him more as a passing running back last year. And then they got rid of Kelvin Benjamin last year. People might have forgot. He was their number one wide receiver, and they got rid of him completely. And then they would go out this year and draft DJ Moore in the first round, and they're hoping that this guy can come in and just replace Kelvin Benjamin along with Devin Funchess, the former U of M tight end. But I don't. There's something weird about this team to me. Like, I think they have a lot of promise. Like, maybe they can get something going with some read options with McCaffrey and Cam Newton. But I don't know. Something, just a personal gut feeling to me. Like, on paper they should be good. They should be fine. But to me, there's some gut feeling that this team might not live up to expectations this year.
Yeah, and I'm with you, dude. I think. Like, we always do this with the Panthers, too. Like, last year, I think the same thing was we were wondering how good they might be, and they went out and they won some games, and they maybe weren't expected to do so. But I think that they're kind of just nobody knows how good they are. Cam Newton's won an MVP, but nobody's really sure if he's a good NFL quarterback. Like, people still kind of put him middle of the pack when they rank out the quarterbacks, which I might put him, I don't even know. He's top 20 to me, I guess. But again, dude, he's never impressed me as a passer. Ron Rivera, I've seen make many a head coaching error, but he's also had some very nice games. So to me, the Panthers are kind of a mixed bag of you're never going to know what you're going to get. But the two things that I know for sure are Luke Kuechly's there, and Christian McCaffrey, I think, is on pace to develop. And in fact, if I'm a fantasy football owner, Christian McCaffrey's a guy I'm really looking at.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. I took him last year, and he did some nice things for my team, but this year he'll probably improve by all accounts. And I think just the overall sum up, what I gather from the Carolina Panthers is inconsistency at the quarterback position. And just, you never know. One year they could be in the Super Bowl like they were just a few years ago playing Denver, or, they could have a below 500 season and not meet expectations whatsoever. So it's kind of like Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde, or whatever it is, that story.
It's a Jekyll and Hyde situation.
Right. Yeah, that thing. But yeah, anyway, we got to see what we're going to get.
Yeah, and I think people, when you look at the Panthers, it's a tough call to make because, again, it's just I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. But I know when they went to the Super Bowl, I think it was more based on their defense than their offense. I know Cam Newton won MVP, had 35 passing touchdowns, and career low interception numbers. His interceptions have risen. His touchdowns have fallen ever since then. And one thing they had that season that they don't have now is they had a guy who made a name for himself and in 15 was the best cornerback on the planet in Josh Norman. And they let him go in the stupidest general management move I've ever seen when they tagged him and then rescinded it, which was absurd. But Josh Norman in Washington, we know, has not been the same guy. And I think you look at the Panthers and they don't have the same talent on defense and the same depth on defense that they had when they went to that Super Bowl. Their offense, as long as it's run by Cam Newton, I don't have a ton of faith that it's going to be consistent. That's really just going to be his legacy so far through his career is wildly inconsistent.
Fair point. I think it's time to move on to a quarterback who has been super consistent throughout his career down in New Orleans, Mr. Drew Brees in the Saints. They also finished 11-5. We've as we mentioned, 3 teams finished with a 10+ win record last year. And this is one of those teams. Their offense looked incredible with the addition of Alvin Kamara. And we got to wonder, is, Mark Ingram getting suspended, is that going to affect this offense? And maybe Drew Brees aging a little bit more, is that going to affect them even more too, Shea?
I think Drew Brees is going to have a nice year. I don't know that the Mark Ingram suspension is going to hurt as much as everyone thinks because you had Alvin Kamara break out the way that he did last season. And you had like a running back by committee situation that most teams would kill for. And with Michael Thomas getting better and better every single season, Dude, I think that Drew Brees is poised to be in that offense and have a really nice season. And maybe for the first time in a very long time, they might have a defense to match it because Marshawn Lattimore is only going to get better. That's a defense that really, really exceeded expectations a season ago. And when you think about it, this is a team that should have been in the NFC Championship game and maybe would have stood a better chance against the Eagles than Minnesota did. I don't think Drew Brees has shown any signs of aging so far. He's at that age where everybody has dropped off except for Tom Brady and Brett Favre. He's 39, but I think we can expect a big year from Drew this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think even though Drew Brees is getting older, he does struggle a little bit throwing the ball downfield. He can't like zip it as much as he used to. He can still get it up there, but most of his career has been just short passes, just smart. He's just smart. He's a very smart quarterback, and I think he'll adapt very easily. And if they have a run game like they did last year, then they're going to have zero problems on the offensive side of the ball. And like you touched on earlier, the defensive side of the ball, they kind of overachieved, I guess you could say. Like no one really expected what they did last year, but they have a guy like Cameron Jordan who's just an absolute beast, and no one really talks about him in the NFL. And then on top of that, they go out in the first round and draft a guy like Marcus Davenport, and I think that's a really solid pick that they got there to add alongside Cameron Jordan. So maybe their defensive line just improves that much more, and you might see even more improvement on the defensive side of the ball. So yeah, I like this New Orleans team for the most part, as long as they can stay healthy. That is always going to be key in the NFL. And with an old guy like Drew Brees, you got to keep him upright. You got to keep your number one running back Alvin Kamara healthy too.
Yeah, well, okay, obviously keeping Alvin Kamara healthy is going to be key, and staying healthy is key for any team in the NFL. It's one of the reasons why I'm a little hesitant with the Jags this year, because they had no injuries last year, and I don't know that you go 2 seasons like that. I mean, on the defensive side specifically. But the Saints are a team, honestly, that I think is a Super Bowl contender this season.
Okay, I mean that's fair. They're not. I wouldn't put them, for me personally, I wouldn't put them as a Super Bowl contender. I think they're a playoff team for sure. I think last year they had a great window. They had a great thing going on both sides of the ball, and like you said, just they were one miracle play away from the Super Bowl. And I think, like you mentioned, I think they would have matched up a lot better with the Eagles last year than the Vikings did. So. And of course we're playing what if and whatnot, but I don't know. They have a lot to show me this year. Can they go out there and do it again and replicate success is what I want to see.
I kind of expect them to, especially in a division that, like I said, I think it has 3 teams that could win double-digit games in the Saints, the Panthers, and the Falcons. 2 of those teams could just as easily win 6 games as they could win 13. Those, for me, are the Panthers and the Falcons, because for the Falcons, I don't know what Matt Ryan is going to show up.
Yeah, and speaking of the Falcons, I guess we move on to them. They have all these problems with Julio. He wants a new contract, and they're not coming to terms yet. And then they go out and draft Calvin Ridley to add alongside him. They did lose Taylor Gabriel. So their wide receiver core maybe is about the same as it was last year. And of course, last year they did have a new offensive coordinator too. People seem to forget that they lost their offensive guru, Kyle Shanahan, and he went to San Francisco. And by all accounts, Kyle Shanahan was a big factor as to why they made the Super Bowl in 2016, Shea.
Yeah, dude. And that's the biggest thing I can say for that team specifically is, look, Matt Ryan went out, and this is exactly what Jalen Ramsey said, and I thought it was the perfect take. And we may have missed talking about this. We should have talked more. Jalen Ramsey came out and basically said, if you're an NFL quarterback, you're terrible. Matt Ryan, with Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator, won MVP. He had this insane year, all these huge numbers, big year going to Julio Jones, big year going to Mohamed Sanu, and then a year later, Kyle Shanahan's gone, so is Matt Ryan. And I think that is not coincidence. That has a lot of weight. Because if your offensive coordinator leaves and all of a sudden you forget how to play quarterback in the National Football League, those 2 things have to go hand in hand. And maybe Matt Ryan is what he is, and he's just not very good, and he was a product of a very brilliant offensive mind in the NFL, who, by the way, took Jimmy Garoppolo and made him worth $154 million in 5 games.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see. Jimmy G in his second year under Shanahan, he didn't even get a full season to learn the playbook and learn all the ins and outs of the offense. So maybe that's something to look out for on the West Coast. But on the East Coast in Atlanta, I mean, Atlanta's still Atlanta. They still have a lot of really good pieces on the offensive side of the ball and a lot of underrated talent on the defensive side of the ball. And that's why they were a 10-win team last year. That's why they were a playoff team. And they went out and won their first game. I can't remember who they play.
The LA Rams.
Yes, the Rams.
Jared Goff, who was way too young for those lights.
Yeah, quite possibly. You might be right. And I think maybe second year under a new offensive coordinator, Matt Ryan will start to improve. Like I said, you still have a bunch of weapons. There's no reason why you aren't being productive on the offensive side of the ball. So for me, this team is the resounding number one for me, Shea, in this division. I think this team will see the most improvement. I think they will win the division. I think that their defense is just improving. They're just solid. No one really talks about the Atlanta Falcons defense, but they do what they got to do to help their offense get the ball back and stay on the field.
And maybe this is a situation where we talk a lot about the drop-off of Matt Ryan and how not good he was last year, but we forget that they still won 10 games. They still made the playoffs. They still won the wild card game. They made it to the NFC Divisional. They were within a play of sending the Eagles home. I mean, we forget how close Matt Ryan and Julio Jones got to sending the Super Bowl champs packing. And so maybe we put a little too much into how not good Matt Ryan was a year ago, and maybe it is like growing pains and this new offensive coordinator who they've now had for a year, and they get a little more time to gel, and maybe Matt Ryan comes out and he's more Matty Ice than he was a year ago. But to me, if we're going who's the number one team in this division, to me it's the Saints. You got consistency in coaching with Sean Payton and his coaching staff. You're bringing back much of a defense that overperformed a year ago that was really, really good. That's only going to get better. You're bringing back a Marshawn Lattimore. You're bringing back an offense that, sure, Mark Ingram suspended, but you hit a diamond in the rough drafting Alvin Kamara. You have a unicorn quarterback in Drew Brees. You have an elite wide receiver in Michael Thomas. It's a team that's just got so many weapons and so many different ways that they can kill you, because the ability to air it out like they did when they won the Super Bowl with Drew Brees is still there. And they also have the ability now to run the ball down your throat and to complete a lot of passes behind the line of scrimmage for rack yardage, which is huge. So to me, the Saints have to be the number one team in this division. And do I think there's a world where the Falcons or the Panthers win it? Yeah, but I think those two teams are too much Jekyll and Hyde for me to go and pick.
And I understand that's a completely fair argument. It could be a complete toss-up 50-50 between the Falcons and the Saints. And, you could throw in Carolina if you wanted to. And if you're crazy, you'll throw in Tampa Bay as a potential winner.
Yeah, if you're a nut.
Yeah. And I'm not going to do that. But just something worries me about a quarterback turning 40 years old that's not named Tom Brady. And Drew Brees has been great throughout his whole career. By all accounts, he's going to go in the Hall of Fame more than likely. But hitting the 40-year-old mark kind of scares me a little bit. And, not having two running backs the first 3 weeks, maybe it throws off their team a little bit, yada, yada. You never know. You really just never know in the NFL. Teams that were good last year could be completely terrible this year, and teams that were terrible last year could be amazing this year. But one thing I do know is Atlanta does have MVP caliber quarterback. They have two running backs that can manage the game and do great things for their team, and they have an elite wide receiver in Julio Jones when he sees the field. And then they add a guy like Calvin Ridley, who showed a lot of promise at Alabama, and they got a tight end like Austin Hooper. I just like the weapons that they have there, and I'm not saying Saints don't have weapons. I just think I would rather have these weapons in Atlanta than I would an aging quarterback and those weapons in New Orleans.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point too. But just for me personally, Matt Ryan took such a regression, and I made the counter argument that maybe we put too much into it, and it's a growing pain situation, and they were still within a play, within really one catch by Julio Jones of sending the Eagles packing. But to me, from being MVP to what he did last year was such a regression that I would take one of the all-time great quarterbacks in Drew Brees with the weapons he has over Matt Ryan and the weapons he has. I might take the entire personnel of the Falcons and give them to Drew Brees over what he has in New Orleans, I like Drew Brees that much better than Matt Ryan. That kind of vaults them ahead to number one for me.
Yeah, and we didn't even touch on the defensive pieces for Atlanta, like Keanu Neal, Desmond Trufant, players like that. The solid secondary. Vic Beasley is an absolute stud linebacker.
Fantastic.
He's a great linebacker in year 4 now. So he's only going to get better. This defense is only going to get better. Really young, really just fast defense too. So we're going to see. I'm excited. We're only 3 weeks away from the official kickoff of the NFL.
We are getting close, my friend. And another guy who kind of flies under the radar in Atlanta that's really buoys the secondary is Robert Alford, who of course had that pick 6 in the Super Bowl, but really has just put together nice seasons year in, year out. Last year, 20 pass defenses.
Yeah, solid, solid.
They do have a very nice piece on defense, but again, you look at New Orleans, it's going to be a dogfight to me between New Orleans and Atlanta because New Orleans also has really nice pieces on defense, especially Marshawn Lattimore. And I don't know. To me, it's really picking hairs, but I think that the Saints are the better team, and it's because of the quarterback play. I think that is all the time we have for this week's episode. What do we got coming up next week? What division you want to cover?
Well, we've almost done all of them, actually. So we have... we've done the NFC East, we've done the NFC North, the NFC South, we did the NFC West, AFC South. All that's left, Shea, is the AFC North, actually. We've done every other division except the AFC North.
I don't think we did the NFC West.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't.
We got to do the NFC West and we got to do the AFC North.
Those are our last two.
You want to find our crazy picks for the AFC East, FYI, that one was not a crazy pick. The AFC South, the AFC West, the NFC East, the NFC North. We are going to tell you, but the trick is you got to go back and find the episodes and listen to them for us to do that. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Monday Mashup, and thank you for listening to Detroit Sports Podcast. And again, remember, brought to you by The Athletic. If you want 30% off the best in premium sports coverage, theathletic.com/DSP. We are here to help. You are going to go to that website. You are going to get an Athletic subscription. I have one. It's my go-to resource for much of my analysis. Theathletic.com/DSP is your home. We're giving you 30% off. Thanks for listening, guys.